Morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to Be With Me. Today is God Counts to Seven and then Exhales. This is episode number 9, studying the book of Genesis. We're kind of marching through it sequentially. And so far, we've finished chapter 1. So that's been a chapter full of action and creation and creativity. And the Lord is focusing on work and speaking stuff into existence, earth and light, and separations of water and sky and land and earth and oceans and plants and life. And most importantly today is he also creates morning and evening. He separates day from night and seasons and days and years. So in that first week, he's making time. Then he charges man, gives him dominion over all this stuff. And then he assesses it on a daily basis and approves it and finds it good. Okay, I want to tell a story today as some scientists just a couple weeks ago were in Thailand. They were on this island, this remote island, which was very well studied. And they were walking around at night to look at some nocturnal creatures. And out of the sky falls a creature and it lands on one of the biologists, which must have been absolutely terrifying for at least a moment. And it was this 5-inch gecko lizard kind of thing. It was a clawed lizard. And they realized that after they studied it, so it was a very sophisticated thing, they checked its DNA and found out that this gold, and it was a gecko and it has a golden eye. It's a real pretty little thing. And literally, it was a new species that fell out of the clouds or probably out of a tree and landed on one of the researchers. So it was almost as if God was saying is, hey, I want you guys to notice this creature for the first time. So this is a group of people who professionally study life, and I hope that they gave thanks. I hope that they paused in their hearts and worshiped. So I tell you that story because it tells the focus on the first 6 days of creation. Well, now join me as we turn to the next day of creation, which is the seventh day. There's one thing that all the first 6 days don't have, and that's rest. So amidst all of this, there's no rest. So read with me, chapter 2, verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. So you may ask the question with me as we look at this, why did God, who has infinite power, he's omnipotent, he's all powerful, and yet he rests? He makes himself, in a sense, subject to the time that he created during this first week, days and season and years. He made that construct, and he steps into that time and aligns himself with this concept of and a construct of time. Now, God did not have to come into our time. He did not have to come into our world, his creation, his construct, in this peculiar and particular way. God could have stood out of time, which he had done in the time immortal before that. So I know that God is still eternal, and in a way, he does stand outside of time forever. But here we see God entering into time. He submits to time, he counts to seven. And then God rests on that seventh day. So he didn't need to create time. He didn't need to create mornings and evenings and separating from. He did that for us. We'll see that in a while. And then he shows us something by counting to seven. And on that day, he says, I'm going to rest. So it kind of reminds me of Philippians chapter 2, where it says, this is about Jesus. Have this mind amongst yourselves, Philippians, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, and this describes Jesus, as though he was in the form of God, he did not count equality with God as a thing to be grasped, but he emptied himself by taking on the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men. And being found in human form, he humbled himself by being obedient to the point of death, even on a cross. So we see Jesus coming all the way down from heaven, entering our world, leaving some displays that's due him as God and emptying himself, becoming a servant and becoming like men. And similarly, I see God here entering time, which he just created, and he patterns himself and submits to it in a sense, this rhythm of time. God did not need a Sabbath. He did not need to count to seven and exhale. He did not need to rest, even after making a star or two. So I see the same characteristic that we saw here in Jesus in Philippians 2, now in the Father. He didn't need to do this. He didn't need to submit to this construct, but he wants to. Why? For our benefit. So God counts to seven, not because he needs a rest. I think it's because we need a rest. We'll talk to more about our need for rest tomorrow. But for today, let's admire the fact that first God makes time, so that's great, as we understand it, and then the Father submits to it in a way. Why does he submit to it? Well, he's making a way, not because he needs to it, he's serving us by this demonstration. He's helping us with something that we desperately need, which is similarly to count to seven and then rest and exhale. And so to do so, to show us this, he had to enter into our time. So before we get to rest, we have to go through time. And God shows us the way. God counts to seven and then exhales. Thanks for listening.